Akashvani Mangaluru presents Voices from the Bookshelf in collaboration with Bookaholics Mangalore. Dear listeners, welcome to today's episode of Voices from the Bookshelf. In this episode, you will be listening to a talk by Sharon Reema on the book Cognitive Therapy and the Emotional Disorders by Aaron T. Beck.
Hi everyone, I'm Sharon Reema, a proud member of the Bookaholics Mangalore. I'm truly delighted to be speaking with you today about one of the most renowned and classical books in the mental health genre, one that changed the trajectory of psychological treatment and brought about a paradigm shift in how we understand emotional disorders. As someone currently pursuing my specialization in medical and psychiatric social work, my passion and studies keep me deeply engaged with topics like emotional well-being, healing, mindfulness, mental health issues, and therapeutic counseling. It is this passion for holistic health and storytelling that led Hasta Narayan, co-founder of Bookaholics, to invite me to explore and share insights from the mental health genre. And I couldn't be more thrilled to dive into today's featured book. The book I'm reviewing today is Cognitive Therapy and Emotional Disorders by Aaron T. Beck. Published in 1975, this work marks a turning point in psychological treatment. Beck, often referred as the father of cognitive therapy, lays out a clear, empirically grounded framework for understanding and treating emotional disorders. And what's revolutionary is that he doesn't rely on medication or deep psychoanalysis. Instead, he focuses on changing the way people think. Beck's central thesis is simple yet profound. Emotional disorders stem from distorted thinking patterns, and by identifying and restructuring these thoughts, individuals can alleviate suffering and regain control of their lives. This was a major departure from Freud's theory that emotional distress stems from unconscious conflicts. Beck brought therapy into the realm of conscious cognition, something accessible, modifiable, and empowering. Now, let's walk through the key themes of the book, which are organized into thematic chapters that build a cohesive narrative. First, Beck introduces us to cognitive model of emotional disorders. He explains how automatic thoughts, those brief involuntary mental statements, shape our emotional responses. For example, a student might think, I'm going to fail this test, despite being well prepared. That thought alone can trigger anxiety and self-doubt. Beck shows how identifying and challenging such thoughts, asking, what evidence do I have for this belief, can reduce distress. He contrasts this with psychoanalysis, arguing that therapy should focus on conscious cognition, which is far more accessible and modifiable. Next, we move into depression, the prototype disorder. Beck's cognitive triad, that is negative view of the self, the world, and the future, is central to understanding depression. He shares a story of a woman recovering from divorce who repeatedly thinks, I am unlovable, the world is cruel, and I'll always be alone. Beck demonstrates how these thoughts are not facts but interpretations. Through cognitive restructuring, she begins to recognize her strengths and reframe her future. He also explores common distortions like selective abstractions, overgeneralization, and catastrophizing patterns that many of us fall into without realizing. Then we come to anxiety disorders. Beck explains that anxiety often arises from overestimating danger and underestimating our ability to cope. Take the example of a man with social anxiety who believes if I speak up, everyone will laugh at me. Now, Beck helps him test his belief through small social interactions. The man discovers that people are actually receptive, not mocking, disconfirming his fear. Beck's approach combines exposure with cognitive reframing, helping clients to reinterpret perceived threats. In Obsessions, Phobias, and Psychosomatic Disorders, Beck explores how rigid schemas and maladaptive beliefs drive these conditions. One example is a woman with contamination OCD who washes her hands 50 times a day, fearing illness. Beck uncovers a core belief: germs are everywhere and deadly. Now, through therapy, she learns to tolerate uncertainty and reduce compulsions. In psychosomatic cases, Beck shows how emotional distress can manifest physically. A man with chronic headaches, for instance, is found to harbor suppressed anger and perfectionist beliefs. Addressing these thoughts helps reduce his symptoms. And finally, Beck outlines principles and techniques of cognitive therapy. He introduces practical tools like thought records, Socratic questioning, and behavioral experiments. For example, a depressed student who believes I am incapable is asked to list past achievements and attempts a small academic test. Her success challenges the belief and boosts her confidence. Beck emphasizes a collaborative therapeutic alliance where a therapist and client work as equals, which is a radical shift from traditional authoritarian models. One of the book's greatest strengths is the clarity and accessibility. Beck writes with precision and warmth, making complex ideas more digestible. His case examples are very vivid and relatable, often drawn from real clinical encounters. It's also grounded in scientific rigor. Beck's methodical dismantling of psychoanalytic assumptions is both respectful and persuasive. And despite its scientific foundation, the book never loses sight of human experience. Beck's empathy for those suffering from emotional disorders is palpable throughout. Of course, we must consider the historical context when we look at the limitations and certain considerations while reading the books. Some terminology and diagnostic categories reflect the psychiatric landscape of the 1970s when this book was written. Readers need to interpret certain sections with an understanding of how mental health discourse has evolved over the past few decades. There's also a limited cultural scope. The book is primarily Western in its orientation, while the cognitive model is broadly applicable. Beck doesn't deeply explore cultural variations in cognition or in emotion. And this is where I believe our own creativity and commitment to inclusivity, especially in multilingual wellness education, can beautifully extend his legacy. Aaron T. Beck's Cognitive Therapy and Emotional Disorders is more than a clinical manual. It is a philosophical shift. It invites us to believe that thoughts are not facts and that by changing our thinking, we can change our lives. For educators, therapists, and mental health professionals, it is a treasure trove of insight and inspiration. It is a compassionate invitation to rethink how we suffer and how we heal. Beck's message is very clear. Change your thoughts and change your life. His model teaches that awareness of one's thought is the first step towards healing. This principle aligns beautifully with work in psychoeducation, wherein helping individuals name their internal experiences and to reclaim their agency. As Beck says, the patient learns to become his own therapist. Cognitive therapy, at its heart, is a form of narrative therapy. It invites individuals to rewrite the stories and tell it to themselves. This mirrors the dramatic monologue and legacy curation, where characters transform through insight and reflection. Imagine a scene where a character confronts their inner critic and then reclaims their voice. Beck's framework gives that moment a psychological depth. His emphasis on verbalizing thoughts, that is naming, challenging, reframing, highlights the therapeutic power of language. This book is a masterclass in therapeutic reasoning. It models how to think critically, empathize deeply, and intervene effectively. Beck even encourages therapists to reflect on their own cognitive biases, fostering humility and growth. His writing is rigorous yet deeply humane. He doesn't just analyze suffering, he offers hope. Before I wrap up, I want to take a moment to thank Akashvani and Hasta Narayan, co-founder of Bookaholics Mangaluru, for making this collaboration possible. I feel truly privileged to be able to share not just a review, but a message that truly matters, especially in today's world. Awareness around mental health is essential if we are to break the stigma and taboos that still surround emotional disorders. To every listener out there, thank you for lending your ears and your heart. I hope this episode moves you to be a little kinder to yourself and to others, a little more curious, and a little more open to the invisible journeys that shape us. Let us build emotional resilience together. Life is beautiful, and what determines your happiness is your mindset and how you respond to the situations and people around you. Thank you.
You were listening to Sharon Reema Diaz on the book Cognitive Therapy and Emotional Disorders by Aaron T. Beck. This was today's Voices from the Bookshelf. See you in the next episode.